Hi, this is a tutorial on the very basics of using the default language in Sema. You might be wondering why it's called the default language. Other languages have perhaps more exciting names like Ruby or Python. In Sema, we can make lots of different languages or lots of different variations of a single language. And we're quite keen not to define it by one single language. But we want to have also a language that basically exposes all the different functions that you can do in the audio engine. So we've given it an unremarkable name, the default language, and it is just that. In the default language, you can see in the documentation the different functions that are available. So if you go to our GitHub, you can look in the Sema/docs folder and go to this document here, default live coding language, and it will tell you all the different functions that are available. So we've got all the normal things that you'd associate with an audio engine: oscillators, different types of control, sampling, filtering, some basic effects, maths, mapping values, and some mouse input. Let's have a look at how the basics work. In the default language, you type a function name and give it some parameters to control that function. The parameters are always between curly braces, and they go to the left of the function name. Let's have a look at how we'd listen to a saw oscillator. So the name for a saw oscillator is saw. We always have a semicolon at the end of the line, and it takes a parameter which is the frequency of that oscillator. So if I run this command here, I need to put a greater than sign. That indicates that we want to listen to the output of this function. And I run this code, we should hear a saw oscillator at 80 Hz. I'm just going to take away the output sign, just so we've got silence again. You will notice that there was a short delay between when I executed that code and when we could hear it. That's because there is a clock going on in the background in Sema. This is for when you're doing kind of more complex sequencing, and the audio engine waits until the start of a new bar before it swaps the code that you've just run with the code that was running beforehand. So there was silence, and then at the start of a new bar it played our 80 Hz saw wave. You can configure the clock. We'll look at that in a different tutorial. Let's have a look at some slightly more complex functions. Supposing I want to mix two saw waves together. We can use a function called mix. This takes as many parameters as you like. You can mix as many things together as you want. And in Sema, different parameters are separated by a comma. So my first parameter here is an 80 Hz saw wave. I'm going to put a comma, and then let's have an 81 Hz saw wave, so we get a kind of beating effect. And then I have my function name mix. So we've got two parameters, two different saw waves at slightly different frequencies, as being routed in to a function called mix, which will mix them together. So let's see what happens when we run that. And once this is running, we can live code it, so I can go and change these parameters, and we'll hear the differences when I run the code. That doesn't sound very good, so let's put it back to 80. And I can change the name of the oscillator. I can change this to a square. I can change this one to a sine. So that's the basics of how we use the default language in Sema, and we'll go into some more detail about some specific features in the next tutorials.